talk about why these right answers are right. When you start with a main point question, what are you going to say? You turn to the person sitting next to you and say, I just read a passage about how Molly screwed things up so bad that the UNESCO doctrine would actually make things worse at this point. Screwed things up so badly by simply passing a law against excavating and exporting the wonderful terracotta sculptures. So, what's the main point of the passage? Just passing a law banning excavation ends up screwing things up. You need something more complicated than that in that whole last paragraph. And so that's how we know that preserving cultural knowledge requires solutions that are more flexible than just passing bans. For question 8, what does the passage say? And in the end of the second paragraph, line 23, a number of countries have strengthened the doctrine by declaring all antiquities that originate within their borders to be state property that cannot be exported. So that's how we know that B is the right answer. The passage just said it. For number 9, why does the author say, suppose they had done this, suppose they had done that? And taxing was one part of a whole long list, right? That started with, suppose from the beginning they had been helped by UNESCO. Suppose at the beginning they had required that objects be reported and registered. Suppose they had imposed a tax. Why does the author say suppose they had done the tax? Because it's part of a list of things that, had they done them, would have fixed the problem. Present one part of a more pragmatic approach to regulating trade. Yeah. For number 10, what would the author say about UNESCO? Well, we just looked at it right there. One of the things the author would say in line 42 is that suppose that Mali had been helped by UNESCO. She says at the beginning, when she starts talking about UNESCO and other international bodies have formed a protective doctrine. What do we know about UNESCO? It's helpful. It's protective. It can play an important role in stemming abuses. That's what we want, that kind of evidence. Number 11, what does the author say about regulations in cultural antiquities in countries like Mali? And in line 55, some people would still have avoided the rules. Some people would still have avoided the rules, but this would have been better. Answer choice C, such regulation can be beneficial. It would have been better, even if not all people strictly comply with the rules. Some people would have avoided them. The author says it. She says it. You're sensing a pattern here, right? So the big trick will be figuring out how to read in such a way that you see these things before you even head into these answer choices. All right, number 12. What does the author say about cultural antiquities? And in the last paragraph, line 45, such artifacts have greater value when they are removed carefully with accurate records. So they have more value when they're removed carefully. And then, in the end of the passage, the excavations encouraged by this hypothetical system may be less well conducted and less informative than proper, professionally administered excavations by accredited archaeologists. So what do we know? Proper excavations by archaeologists are more careful and better recorded, and that would result in more value to the antiquities. So, antiquities should be excavated by professional archaeologists, if you can. And that leaves us with only question 13. The author's attitude towards those foreign collectors. What does she say about them? And in line 7, she says, the sculptures were illicitly excavated in the 80s and sold to foreign collectors who rightly admired them. They had good taste. She says it. That's how we know it. And that's how we know that B is the right answer. And that's why all the right answers here are the right answers. We'll take a look at the next passage next.